Hi, my name's Lindy Cowling and welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of the video today is January 2017 Venus Energy Attunement. January 2017 Venus Energy Attunement. In a way, this video will be in a way divided into two halves. The first short part of the video will be done in my usual way, and the back half of the video will be a short attunement into moving and adjusting and tuning up to some of the energy frequencies that are happening at the moment. So to start this video, for those of you that have been watching this channel for the last almost 3 years, you will know that I work in an experiential fashion and all from the frequency of the heart. And when I say an experiential fashion, that has been and will always be using aspects of my own experience working with other people over, this is almost a 17-year period now, 17 years this year, but also from my own personal spiritual evolution, so my own personal experience. And that's what I mean by experiential. So I share as I experience. So I may be inspired by other people's work, but I actually do the YouTube work through my own living experience and embodiment of it. So it's a very long, slow way round because I am a natural channel, and it would have been much faster for me to just be channeling and then catch up in the years that follow. But I have been always driven in a way to do it this way and to anchor it and then share it. So what I'm going to talk about today is very, very relevant to me and very, very relevant to you. Because as we have now entered the year of being fully conscious, which is 2017, fully conscious means fully aware of our own feelings, fully aware of our own emotions, fully aware of the bigger picture, fully aware and understanding the belief systems and the programming around us, and being fully present in the now, but also being fully present in the wisdom and knowledge that we can create from the now the experiences we wish to step into. And in this last few days, it has been really, I was going to say it's been really interesting, but that actually would be not the word that I was going to use. It's been really challenging to re-experience for me some physical, quite traumatic physical symptoms of something that triggered in my life back in originally 2004, but really got going in 2006. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and because it's an experiential channel, this is why I do this. I often use my own experiences or that of the clients and the people I'm working with and share this way and put the frequency out that way, is because it was the last thing I was expecting, and my knee-jerk reaction, because it was extreme physical pain in the back, which I had way back started building in 2004, but it really took on its own momentum in 2006 when I had a really nasty back kind of injury that led on to fibromyalgia kicking in, and I still have fibromyalgia. But that's where it started. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that reared its head again a few days ago in a very dramatic way. I literally couldn't put one foot in front of the other. I couldn't move. Literally couldn't move. And it was interesting for me because my knee-jerk reaction was one of apart from yelling with the pain, was a wave of fear, as oh my God, not again, because in my body's history, the emotional circumstances and the energetic circumstances that triggered that at that time had still been held within my energy field and my body all this time, years later with the fibromyalgia. And in my mind, it was, oh my God, it was kind of amplified because it wasn't just like an injury and then I got over it. My body was never the same again. Never walked properly again as a result of it. And it was almost like a little replay of that, a little replay of it, of like, oh my God, it's happening again. And some of the stuff come up. Now, the pain was just as dramatic, physical pain, but after the initial shock, I'm going to call it a shock, then I had the realization I'm in a very, very, very different space in every sense of the word than I was in 2006. As I had the realization, hold on a minute, this is coming up for me to realize that there's still an energetic pattern there triggering in the right circumstances, really to bring out the very core of what was left behind. So for me, the core of what was left behind were some emotions that I thought I'd dealt with, but that I hadn't dealt with. And actually there were implications for my extended family. In a way, to put it simply, we could say it was almost like a family secret. And the magic of it really was that a couple of members of my family have been staying here over Christmas, and they had a dream about this. Let's call it a family secret. So I won't go into details. It wasn't really a secret, but kind of. They had a dream about it. And on the day that my back went into spasm and I couldn't move and was shutting the place down, they said that they'd had this dream and they were asking me about it. And that dream directly linked to the original trigger of a back injury for me way back in 2016. It was all connected with the secret. So it was magical because I chose that moment. I was, and I was very emotional because I was in a lot of pain physically. And also I didn't realize that there was quite a lot of emotion in there. And I'd kind of suppressed it really for a long time. So I cried a lot, but I got it all shared, all from the heart. And it was an amazing thing because it got shared for about an hour. And it was good because it gave them the aha moment as, oh, now that makes sense. And it also enabled me to release what I was holding on to in regards to that, which I kind of didn't realize I was still holding on to that. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because there are levels upon levels upon levels. And this is why I said this video is in two parts. If you're not interested in this part of it, in the different layers of it, then you can just go to the attunement part of it. The reason I'm bringing this up is because it's all interconnected. And as we know that the physical ailments that we have and the physical circumstances that we have sometimes can be excruciating and very challenging, but they give you the opportunity to look at what's underneath that and why certain patterns are repeating and why we're drawing certain things in. And the biggest area of neglect, if you like, for me has always been the body, because of my background, my violent, dysfunctional childhood. I learnt, even before I could talk, I learned very early on that it was not, I wasn't in a safe environment. It was very violent. And so I learned to suppress and really to survive and not thrive. So I learned very quickly that it wasn't safe. And my, like millions in dysfunctional circumstances and abusive childhoods, learned coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms that I didn't even know I'd learned to make sure basically that I survived. Really, it was a survival thing, just an absolute instinctive response, which came back to haunt me much, much later in life. But the reason I'm bringing this up again is we get into patterns of not dealing with our emotions, and they get filed away somewhere. And for me, they got filed away in the body. They got filed away in the body, and for years I disassociated and displaced and left the body, really until very the last 3 or 4 years, really. I've only learned to be in the body after all this time in recent years, because I got the message it wasn't safe to be in the body, so I just kept leaving it. It was easy for me to leave it, being psychic and a medium clairvoyant, and it was an instinctive thing, even if I didn't want to. It was a disassociation. Just bosh, I'm off. So I've had to learn in a very physical, painful way to acknowledge my body. My body has let me know by giving me a lot of issues to be present and to take notice. And my body's consciousness has been very different until recently to mine. I can honestly say it's only been the last couple of years that I have been fully 100% present in my body, and I do not ever think of my body as separate from me. I have thought of it as separate from me all my life and not realised it to the last 2 years. So again, the reason I'm using myself as an example, as you'll see why in a minute, is when we are entering the times we're now entering, and we are called upon to be fully conscious, not running things, not being run by the unconscious or the subconscious, but fully conscious. Things are going to come up that have been suppressed, depressed, filed away in our head or filed away in our body or sitting out there in the energy field that we didn't even realize were there, or we didn't want to go look at, and they will come up in the ways that they are going to most likely draw your attention to them. And they will subtly knock on the door to start with, but then the knocking will get louder and louder. And if you're still not really getting it, then it will be a really loud knock, which is sudden things, happening. I was really surprised, just on social networking, to see how many people over the holiday period had dramatic things happen, or their backs had gone and things like this. And there'll be reasons for that, again, like I'm talking about. Things filed away, emotions, some of them are with the present, but many of the emotions are not to do with the present at all, that are, coming up. And then the reason is not to come up to punish you, but to actually draw your attention to what is the original trigger. So for me, in my personal example, one of my triggers, you see, it's not the original trigger, wasn't 2004 building up to 2006. That was a crunch point. That was a crunch point where the whole system went down hugely. It's a story in itself. I could write a book on it. Sometimes I think I will write a book, another book, because I've had so much stuff in my life. It would be well, there's just so much in there. It'd be quite an interesting learning tool in a way, really. But I won't go into all the details, the personal details of it now. But that was a crunch point. That was a crunch point into the beginnings of a very painful way of finding my way into the heart. A painful way that continued right up to present day. But that wasn't the original ticking time bomb. If I track back, like you will need to track back, you will find the originating point, the originator. And for me, I can see and identify, there are multiple things, but I can identify the originating point for me, which was my first conscious memory. Now, there will be unconscious memories for me that I can't remember. So I can't personally remember physically before the age of 3. There are, of course, memories in there before the age of 3, but I have never been able to remember physically before then. And the reason I remember age 3 is because my first memory is going on tiptoes, opening a door handle and seeing my mum get her head smashed in with an ornament off the wall. And apparently what stopped the beating was me screaming hysterically, and that, stopped it. Now, I don't even remember the scream. All I remember is reaching up to the door handle. So for me, that's my first conscious memory. There will be others there, whether they are blocked out or, I can't retrieve them, I don't know. The violence didn't start there. It started when my mother was pregnant, and she was kicked down the stairs to terminate me, 6 months pregnant. So I will have soul memories of that. But again, the reason I'm bringing up these very personal things, which are entirely comfortable for me to talk about, they might not have been a few years ago, but they certainly are now, is not anything to do with judgment or blame or recrimination. I see and understand the whole picture. I'm bringing it up to give you a working example, a working model of that. The explosion point, sometimes the crunch point, it may not have started there. There's often an originator, an original point before then, and it's nearly always in our childhood. And for me, my originator point was that the only working physical example I have of not feeling safe and horror and violence was at the age of 3. But there would have been others before that. But that's as far back as I can consciously track. I can subconsciously, I'm sure, and in energy track it further. But we don't, in a way, it's useful to have an originating point, but it's like sticking your head in a dustbin. To have a realization and an understanding, you can have your aha moment without having to regurgitate and dig into all of it. Now, for some people, they are going to have to dig into all of it because it's layer upon layer. Sometimes it won't come like that. For me, I have no fear of that whatsoever now. I understand all of that, so it doesn't worry me looking at that. But I also have the knowing that all I need to do is identify the originating cause, which I fully identify and understand. And I don't need to recall every single event, that all gave me the same message, that you're not safe, and you're not accepted, you're not safe. All of those kind of big ones in there. So you will have an originating point. You may not have had the same background as me. You'll all have different things, but you'll have an originating point. It may not go back as far as childhood for you, but you'll find an originating point of where your emotion around a subject is. Now, it may not come out. I'm using the body as a physical example, and the body is a big place to store stuff like this. You may be, in a way, been bypassing it in another way and filing it away in your mind, for example, and then it comes back. It comes back to bite you, and it really will come back to bite you in the times that we're living in now, because it's the time of being fully conscious. So all that is subconscious, unconscious, filed away somewhere in your head or in your energy field or in your body somewhere is crying out to be made conscious. When it's filed away, it's called unconscious incompetence. When it's to the fore, and you're aware of it. In psychology speak, it's conscious competence. And when you're aware of it, you're halfway there, because when you're aware of patternings and emotions and where it comes from, you're halfway there. And for each of us, it will be slightly different. But halfway there is realizing that's what's going on. And then you will have emotion come up about what's going on and where it comes from. And you might feel deeply caring of yourself as a child. And, this is the inner child stuff again coming to the fore. Just using that as an example. Or it may not be as far back for that as you. It may be something when you're a little bit older, and you'll realize it, and you'll have that aha moment and realize, well, what is my body trying to let me know here now? What your body's trying to let you know. And I'm using the body as an example. Like I say, it could be your mind doing it. Of course, the two are interrelated, but it might all be playing out through your mind and not physically through your body. It's trying to let you know that there is a patterning there that's still holding and repeating in that area of the body, still filing it away there. And there is a little bit of unresolved, unacknowledged, unrecognized emotion behind it. And as you track it back and then you bring it forward to your crunch point, whatever your crunch point was, you're called upon then, instead of just recognizing it and saying, oh, haha, that's what it was. That makes sense. I'll gradually get better now. That's not enough. That's not enough. That's not going to do it. What you're called upon now in a year of being fully conscious is you're called upon to then acknowledge it, but then to create from that crunch point the experience that you wish to create in a place from the space that you start from, crunch point space, into something that I'm not going to say wish to evolve into, because that makes it sound like it's on like a carrot at the end, at the end of the field there. It's closer than that. It makes you, or gives you the opportunity to decide to evolve into your highest potential, your highest version. So giving you a simple example again, I was working on this morning, when I was laying in bed this morning, I recognised this, I had this big realisation, that aha moment, the floodgates opened again. Yes, bing, 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 connected up all the dots. Yeah, that's that, ran it all together. And then I asked my body directly, what is my body asking for? What is the primary objective? What is the primary thing it wants? When I say it wants, it's not separate from me, but I was addressing my body as a consciousness in its own right, which it rarely gets addressed as a consciousness in its own right in many of us. And I had the word back that my body requires. And with that, again, I felt another floodgate of just wonderful feeling, euphoria, that hallelujah, has been recognised. And from that emotion, that positive emotion, you're called upon to create from there, because you cannot create or extend the reality you're in, or the one that you are creating in front of you, without the positive emotion, without the excited childlike emotion, without the positive flow through you, without the utter, not belief, but the utter knowing that you're not here to continue to suffer, or to continue to be a victim in any way whatsoever, anybody. You're here to recognize those crunch points, and that's your starting point. Like I've said before, it's not your end point. And to create from there. And the reason why we've been stopped creating is we only got so far. We would recognize the crunch point, but we wouldn't look back further. Or we'd recognize the crunch point and we would look back further, but then we'd still go no further. And we missed out the creation bit. Once you've recognized what's flowing underneath all this, you can create from that point. you can't do it before then because all the river of stuff underneath it is still there. So you're creating from that. You're creating from a default response. When you recognize what's under there, suddenly you have this aha moment and okay, I understand it. And so you create from the positive emotion. And that positive emotion might be, like excitement, love. It might be euphoria. It might be joy. It might be gratitude. All higher frequency sounding vibrations. And they do make a sound, and they are corresponding with the heart. And from there, you can then create what you want to step into, which, for most people is abundant health, is, abundant finances, abundant, people around them that, are their tribe and you're their tribe, so to speak. You all resonate with one another. Abundant, joyful experiences, abundant kind of relationships, all those kind of things. You create from there really by using the faculties of your heart, your joyful positive emotions, your joyful positive feelings, your imagination, your visualization, all those things. But none of it works. None of the ingredients, they're all ingredients of the cake. The cake won't rise unless you have the vital ingredient of the positive emotion. And it doesn't matter which positive emotion you start with or which positive thought you start with, you build on it and expand into it to create from there. And why I've gone a kind of a long way round of explaining this is you won't even be able to access that point of creation unless you have, if stuff comes up for you, looked under the surface. Now everybody is different. And some people, they'd have done all the stuff. There won't be really much in there, and they can start from that creation point. But it's unusual. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human, or most of us are human on this planet. Not all. So, part of the human experience is there's going to be stuff, and it's surprising, when you think you've done tons of stuff, tons of work on yourself over the years, and then boom, and expect them to be a bit boom at the moment, because these are vastly accelerated times, and when you're creating very, very quickly. Now, it's another point to make before I go into the attunement side of it, because this video is going to get too long otherwise, is when you're creating from that really wonderful space, it's very magical, and the more times you really tune in and start playing with the energy of creation, the better. I mean, I do about 5 to 10 minutes every day, that's all. But I've got quite fast at it now. And it's important for me to say that many of us are creators, and we're going to be called upon. I mean, we're all being called upon to be master creators, really. Many of us have been creating for years, but we've been creating down the other end of the spectrum. So a lot of people say to me, and I mean, I have to laugh because it's myself included, why do people on this journey, basically, I'm going to be really blunt here, have so much shit? And I've had a monumental amount of shit in my life. Why do they have such a terrible time of it? Why do they go through so much stuff? Why does so much, happen around them like a whole storm thing? A lot of it is because they're wired into those big primary templates. A lot of it is because they're empathic and sensitive. A lot of it is because you're constantly what you're doing is you're playing with creation, but you're playing down the other end of the spectrum. It's like waving around like a lollipop, magic lollipop. Instead of using it like a wand, we're waving it around like that because we don't realise what it is, and things are going bang, 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 and we're creating when we don't mean to create mess that we don't want to create. And then when we've not been using it, focusing and positively focusing, because we haven't realised the tools that we've had, really. But to get up to really the next level of the tools that we have, is to realise that sometimes there's a messiness around us, really, because that's all part of that creation process. All the old stuff has to come down and be recognised before the new can be born of it. It's all part and parcel of the experience, really. So if you come from a lot of negative stuff around you, actually, it's almost like that polarization, which is part of the human experience. You have to experience sometimes a lot of shit and what you didn't want to say, Christ, enough's enough here. You know, sometimes it has to get, not for everyone, but sometimes it has to get bad enough where you say, no, that's it. That's my line in the sand now. This has to change, and waiting for somebody to change it for you is just not going to work. Again, I'm going to say you're the one you've been waiting for. You're being called upon to create. And I just know some people are going to be watching this saying, how the hell can I create when I'm in a lot of physical pain? You know, I'm financially bankrupt. My wife has walked out on me. I've just lost my job. It's like the storm around you. You're not the storm, you're the eye at the heart of the storm. It's hard not to identify with a storm. I know I've been there a million times in this life, but believe you me, and it always comes with me that all of it comes at once. Never one or two things, a whole lot at once. And what's happening is you're being given opportunity. Your soul is giving you an opportunity over and 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 over again to recognize what you are showing yourself, what you're being asked to recognize in yourself. And really, if we had to simplify it, it is the identification of who you truly are, your unique expression of consciousness. You're being asked to recognize. You're being asked to recognize that you are creator, that you are creator consciousness, and you can create. Just like if the storm's going around you, you're not the storm, you are the eye, you're the center of the storm. It's very, very still. And from there, by tapping into a joyful emotion, I know you're going to say to me, how can I feel joyful when there's so much shit going on around me, or I'm doubled up in pain? I know, I've been there many times. And you will find the space. At first, if you can't find that space because it just feels you're in overwhelm on emotion, pick a day when you're not on so much on the overwhelm of emotion. And if you can't in that present time feel anything like joyful or gratitude or love or excitement or childlike excitement, pick a memory somewhere in your life where you experienced that and link into the memory again, just to start the process of feeling that much better on the stepping stones to positivity. If you can't do that, because I have some clients that they can't even access that, then you can invent a memory that the body and the energy field and the mind will accept it, and it will react in the same way if you have let's call it a fabricated memory. So a simple one, being a child on the beach. The sun seems to be always shining, it's warm, you're excited, you feel really happy. It's like that really excited feeling, tapping into it. I mean, I can feel it just by saying it now, get into that state. But that's what I use with clients sometimes if we need to invent one. And that's the beginning process. And all of this is part and parcel of it, because you're being basically asked to create your way out of the shit of the circumstances of your life sometimes. And I'm sorry if that's a bit blunt for some people, me speaking in this way, but I feel it needs to be plainly spoken. And this is definitely a path. This has been a big learning curve for me as well, because I've been used to responding as a victim, really, because I came in that way in a bit of a battle zone, really, and I've continued many of those patterns right the way on. And it's been much later in life, really now, that I've learned, and I'm learning to create my way out of that, not spiritually bypass, recognize the emotions, look at what's going on there, listen, have the realizations, and then create what I do want. Not keep responding like someone in a boxing ring that keeps getting punched in the face and knocked down again, and then gets up and gets punched again. You can get punched so many times, and you're going to get to a point where you either lay down and give up, or you stand up and say enough's enough. I'm not getting punched anymore. And you're not being asked to punch back and fight back in that way. What you're being asked to do is to create, to step into your mastery, really. So I hope that makes sense. This is going on much longer than I anticipated. I debated before I came on here, should I share aspects of my personal experience here? But I truly feel, hand on heart, I don't feel that you can be truly authentic and real and vibrate at that resonance unless you are not coming from experience, very human experience. Otherwise, people get the impression that it's a bowl of cherries, a garden of roses the whole time, and that people that are evolving spiritually, it's just like a walk in the park. I can't tell you without any exception, I don't feel there are any true spiritual teachers, for want of another word, or sharers, that if they really are true spirituality, they've all had a very, very checkered experience. That's what's carved them out, like water pounding through rocks until it's carved out, That's what shapes them into being who they truly are. I'm not implying that it has to be a life of suffering. That's also a belief system, and also one that I was caught up in. Sacrifice and suffering, that's a huge one. Again, that's been a big one for me to disentangle from in much later life. What I am saying is life experience and polarization, it shapes people, it makes them understand what they do want opposed to what they don't want, and more than that, but to learn how they can create, not just identify and resist against what they do and don't want, but to create from that space. And it makes life interesting. Those challenges are what in many ways what makes you who you are. I would not be the person I am today, or have half the capacity to be understanding or naturally compassionate or loving, without having gone to hell and back on many occasions in my life, and come through the other side again, transformed through it. It's another thing I'm going to say, because this is going on way too long, is every time you hit one of those crunch points, we're transformers. We're natural transformers. You're being asked to transform. It's not just a case of just constant recovery, and then because what will happen is things will keep coming. It's like, no, bosh, no, bosh. You're being called upon over and over again. Okay, you've got it. Now transform, create from this point, transform. Otherwise, more of it keeps coming, and we get trapped in those patterns, in a way, of more and more coming, until you get very physically very tired out, energetically worn out. There's only so many years you can keep doing that boxing ring thing until you say, no, that's enough. I'm not doing the boxing ring thing anymore. I'm gonna climb out of the ring and be Lord of the Ring. Don't know where that came from. Anyway, I'm going to go on to the next bit now. I don't know how long this bit will be. This probably is going to turn out to be a really long video, which I didn't intend. I think I had to do it this way. I had to show, and I'm having to show, that there are different layers, and you can't leap to a master creator without coming from a place of consciousness that is free, in a way, from this other stuff and underneath it. And so you may be, I'm not going to say lucky, you may be at a point in your evolution where there isn't much coming up for you like that. But if there is, which is the majority of humans on this planet, you'll understand what I mean here. It doesn't matter where you are on that trajectory. Don't be too linear and just doing what we used to do and think, oh, it was just the one thing. Then there's normally, you can track it back, and it's like connecting up all the things. Aha, you don't have to go digging around there unless for your part of your healing process you need to dig around there with some assistance from somebody, a therapist or something. It might be just that aha moment of, oh, right. And then of course you'll know you're right, because I'm going to use the body as an example again. The body will just go, oh, thank Christ, you know, she's got it, or thank the Lord, she's got it. Hallelujah, she's got it. And you'll feel the relief literally surge through you. And it's like, oh, right, okay. And it's not just that you've got it. That's the point at which you start creating from. By the positive emotion from that point of what you wish to step into. I'm not going to tell you overnight, it will happen overnight. And I'm not going to tell you that out of habits, sheer habit, you will keep slipping back into some of the old. But that's just part of being human. Hey, you know, don't beat yourself up. You keep at it, and you keep at it 5 or 10 minutes every day. Letting the positive emotion well up through the heart and creating what you wish to create. Right, so goodness, 41 minutes nearly. For the last 5 or 10 minutes of this extremely long video, I will do this attunement. Really, that was what I've just done in the last 41 minutes is the groundwork for the attunement. Instead of leaping straight to the attunement, because you ain't going to get straight to the attunement unless you've done the groundwork anyway. And I think that's why I was really led to do it that way. Again, the long, slow, laborious way round that we just can't get away from, you know, unless we incarnate here, you know, in a really high dimension and don't have to go through the human part of it, which does happen, but it's a very small percentage. You know, we have to go through the long, trudgy way round. So that's the way I've had to do that bit. But let's do the attunement bit now. So. Yeah, at 42 minutes. So I'll put a note underneath this if you just want the attunement at 42 minutes and skip the other 42, you're welcome. So make yourself as comfortable as you can in a nice chair, or lay down on your sofa, or go lay down on your bed, somewhere that you can just listen for the next 5 to 10 minutes. I may close my eyes in some of this, I may not. I probably will close my eyes in bits of it just because I'm just tuning up a gear, so to speak, hence the word attunement. Okay, and just before we start this section of the video, just allow yourself to breathe in slightly more slowly, slightly more deeply than perhaps you're used to. Deep breath. Breathe out. Deep breath. Breathe out. And all I'm going to ask you to do is listen to the words and the sound of my voice. And as you listen to the words and the sound of my voice, just take your awareness into your wonderful mind, into your wonderful brain. And just know that just for a short time now, you can enjoy the experience of following the sound, the frequency, the vibration that my voice is putting out for you to dip into. And as we turn our attention to your wonderful mind, your wonderful brain, I'm going to say to you, if you are ready and if you are willing, if you feel happy and safe to do so, you can recognize and gently and safely in your own way release any negative patterns or emotions that you have been repeating or holding in your mind. What I'm going to suggest to you is this will be different for everybody listening to this attunement. And what I am saying to you is that these negative patterns or beliefs, no matter where they are in your mind, body, spirit, or soul, can be, will be revealed to you, released, and start you on the process to healing in a way that you are uniquely secure in. So for some of you, this may happen during the course of this attunement. For some of you, this may begin in the course of this attunement. For others of you, this may be in your dream time, in your sleep, but it will come to the fore, almost we could say in a loving way, bleed through in a way that is acceptable to you. And as we move our awareness of your consciousness into the mind, we recognize that the mind has so much effect on the system of our body, of the way we run our entire layers of the energy field. And we recognize that for millennia, many of us have literally been at odds, almost at war with our own mind, not realizing that the mind is our ally, not recognizing that the mind, the body, and the entire energy field that houses the soul and the spirit are in tandem and can be in harmony with one another and are designed to be in harmony with one another in our ultimate experience of human consciousness. As we take the consciousness down into the heart, then up from the heart back into the mind, down into the heart, and then down through all the rest of the body and your conscious experience within the body, we are going to ask a direct question, and that question is, what word does your body require from you? What word does your body require from you in order to be at its optimal state of function? Now, at this point, we could give you a word, we could suggest a word, but the word is going to be unique to each person listening to this attunement. So go with the first word that comes to you. What word does your body consciousness need as its starting point to achieve homeostasis, to achieve balance, to achieve wellness, to achieve healing? What word does it need as its starting point? What word is it saying? What word is it crying out for its starting point? Now you will know you have the correct word because you will feel a recognition or you will feel a state of relief, an aha moment, maybe a surge of feeling, because your consciousness, your soul has been heard, and it will let you know it's been heard. If you don't experience that, but you still have a word, do not worry. It does not mean the attunement or the process has gone wrong. As I said at the beginning, this will be revealed to you in a way that your unique mind, body, spirit and soul can handle it, is ready to deal with it. For some people it will be a fast, intense way. Others it will be much slower. It doesn't matter. We're not in a race. Just go with it. That's your starting point. What word does it need? Now, you may just need the word and that be enough, but the word that you get, depending on what that word is, depending on if that initiates a feeling within you, it may reveal to you something more. And just like I said at the start of the video, it may mean that word suddenly lets you track back to crunch points, trigger points, and originating causes in your life. For most of you, you won't have to really hash that over and analyze it to death, but you will have to recognize it if it comes up in that way and acknowledge it. And there may be some emotion around that. For others, it's going to be different. I'm going to say the same thing for the mind now. When we bring consciousness up through the heart again into the mind, is there a word the mind has as a starting point for your point of healing creation? For some of you, there may be no word in the mind. For others, there may be. For others, it will be on where the primal cry really for assistance is coming from, whether it's coming from the mind and the body, whether it's coming from a combination of mind and body. I'm specifically working on mind and body here for attunement because they have a direct effect upon the quality, the vibration and the frequency of the energetic bodies and the whole system, the energetic system. Sometimes it is easy to work on the energy fields and to avoid working on mind and body, but without the harmony of the entire system, all in flow, you will not reach your optimal levels of equilibrium, of balance, of homeostasis. So for the purposes of this attunement, we are focusing primarily on mind and body in tandem because it is vital that to get us all to a point of creation from that state of heart awareness balance, that this part of the ingredients of the cake are not left out. So when you have, or if you have identified a word in your mind that mind wishes to start from as a point of creation, when or if you have identified a word in your body consciousness that body consciousness wishes to start from as a point of its own evolutionary creation, see if that elicits a rush of wellness, see if that elicits a rush of happiness, a rush of joy. See if that elicits a question mark, a slight question mark feeling. And if it elicits a slight question mark feeling, you may be called upon to track back as to where that comes from. So whatever your word is, if it doesn't elicit a joyful, happy, relieved feeling, but it feels a bit like there's a question mark and something slightly off, It means that your emotions and your emotional body, your pain body, mind, spirit, soul, are slightly out of alignment because there's something there not quite in kilter. 99% of the time, it is emotionally linked. There is the emotional component to it. So if you do get a question mark over the feeling, and not a feeling of euphoria that's suddenly tuning into your highest outcome, because mind and body are letting you know what they require in order to do this. They're letting you know what they require in order to heal, but they're also letting you know what they require in order to create from this point what you do wish, the positive feeling. If you do get a question mark, track back to where that could come from. It is really quite easy for most people to track back where that came from. Now, most people will probably go first to the crunch point. But I'm asking you, in your own time and in your own way, not to just look at the crunch point, but to go back to the originating cause, because in almost all scenarios there is an originating cause before it got to the crunch point. Crunch point's when everything goes bang. It takes a while to get to that point. And when you've got to that point, again, you will feel a recognition, a freeing up as all the dots come together, the whole thing comes together, the whole thing, aha, comes together. For some of you listening to this attunement, that will happen very quickly for you. It may have already happened, or it might happen while you're listening to this video. For others, it won't be that way, and it will be a process of weeks or months looking at it, because as I said at the beginning here of this attunement, it will come through in a way that is most appropriate for you, and it's different for everybody. It may come through in your dream time, it may bleed through into your life, it will come through in a way that's correct for you. But as it does come through, notice that it is two factors involved here. One is the recognition, the realization, and the healing of what has been happening in your unique energy field and your body system, your mind, your spirit, your soul. But also it is your point, your starting point of where you wish to create from. Whatever your external circumstances are, whatever point of illness you start from, whatever point of mind state you start from, whatever point of financial state you start from, whatever point of family state you start from, your starting point is the positive emotion that your mind and your body is letting you know it needs to take you up to the next level in consciousness. Because in the spiritual arena, we're all very good at working the spiritual energy, but most of us are very, very lousy at bringing it all together in the anchoring of the human body and the human mind as one complete unified field. And we are in the time of unity. You have to have the whole package. And your mind and body are sitting there waiting to be heard. And if we don't hear them in this way, then they will knock louder and louder until they get our attention. They'll scream at us if necessary, take us down by the knees until we hear what our soul and spirit is trying to say, to get us to a state of balance, homeostasis, and to get us to that starting point of the creation of our own reality and of our lives and the life of this planet. So when you're ready, take a deep breath again. And just very slowly open your eyes. If you have drifted off a little bit, bring yourself back into your mind consciousness, but back solidly into your body consciousness. And like I say, this is an attunement or an exercise that for you, maybe you need to hear once, and for other people, they may want to play it over and over again. For other people, it may not have much effect, and for others it may have a dramatic effect. But the suggestion I've made at the beginning here is it will assist you in the way that you are ready and comfortable to be assisted, and every single person is different in that capacity. This is the longest video I've ever made. Whether it actually uploads okay onto YouTube, I'll never know. Well, I will know. I'll know later today. If it's meant to get out there, it'll get out there. Otherwise, when I'm next inspired, I'll have to come on here and do a shorter version. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that helped. Thank you for resonating, and I will love you and leave you. Bye.